So you are thinking about buying a Chinese e-bike, but you have no idea what you're looking for. Don't worry, because in this video, I'm gonna go over everything you need to know about these little e-bikes and what to look out for to make sure that you get the best deal for your money, and also what to avoid to make sure you don't end up with something that, well, is pretty rubbish. So let's start with the batteries. Now on this e-bike, we've got a battery here, big one in the frame, and this one we've got it inside the down tube. You may also see them at the front of the bike, which will be like a switch kit or electrified Brompton, etc. Now some things to note with the batteries. Can they be removed? Can they be replaced? If they can't, then when the battery goes, if it does ever go, then that's game over for the bike. And also where the battery is located. Now for these in the frames, that's it, right? So with the batteries in the frames, what that means is you have to take the bike to wherever the charge socket is. Whereas if the battery is removable, like on the electrified Brompton that I had, what you can do with that is simply take the battery inside and just charge the battery and leave the bike outside. Now, as well as a battery location, you also want to make sure it's a really good battery, because you want to make sure that it can do the claim distance that the manufacturer said. So look online for reviews, see if people have tested that particular bike, and make sure that it can do the claim distance, because if it says it can do 20 kilometers on twist alone, then that needs to be verified really. It's also going to vary for rider weight, etc. So do check the battery out. It is the heart of the machine. Next up, lights. Now inbuilt lights are something to look out for. I think it's actually a really good feature, because you don't have to worry about it. For example, on this little e-bike, we've got inbuilt at the back, which is also a brake light as well. Try and get that on camera for you quick. So there you can see that's a brake light. And at the front, we've got the front light built in as well, super powerful. Now it just makes sense, right? You've got a big battery there. Why not just charge and power the lights? Because it's just easier. With other bikes, they may come with lights. Now, for example, this little light, but you have to charge this separately. So you can obviously forget to charge it and then it runs out. Now I understand there are loads of lights on the market, so it's not the end of the world. It's just handy to have, and having ridden quite a few of these now, it's just good. You don't have to think about it. Press one button, on come the lights. Adjustability is next. Now I'm sure you're all aware you can raise and lower the saddle. Now we have quick release here, we have quick release on this one as well, and that's just commonplace to raise the saddle. Now on these e-bikes, if you can raise a saddle, what you want to be able to do as well is change the bar position. So let me show you this. Now on here, we don't have an ability to raise the bar at all. On here, for example, let's come round, we have a quick release on the bar here. So what that means is we can raise the bar up and down. So you can balance yourself out. If you're really tall, you can raise the bars and the seat. Whereas on here, what happens is you can raise the seat, but not the bars. So you end up a bit sort of more hunched over. It's not the end of the world, but it's something to look out for, especially if you have kids, if you and your partners are different heights, like me and my partner. I can lower the bars in the seat and it's perfect position for her, whereas I just put them up. So not a must have, but you see these on some of them and some of them don't have them. So just be cautious of that one. Let's talk about brakes. Now we can see here we have disc brakes on both of these bikes. So we've got front disc over there. We've got rear disc and rear disc here as well. Now you want good brakes. Now I know these are discs, but not all disc brakes are made equally. So you want to make sure that they're actually good, because they're actually quite nippy, these little bikes. When you get up to speed, it can be a necessity to slow down quick. So you want to have good stopping power. Now good stopping power comes from a few factors: cables, and obviously the discs, the pads, etc. So for example, this is a minor detail, but one to look out for. If we come around here, on this bike, we have Jaguar cable, right? Jaguar cable is a high quality cable, and it's just the ones that I would choose, I would actually buy. And I was quite surprised when this bike came with Jaguar cable. So these cables are going to be better and last longer, which give better braking performance all round. Obviously you've got the disc and the caliper, but they're pretty generic on all these bikes. They should be good enough really, you know, 15, you're going to be going 15 miles per hour, etc. Not too much above that, and they're plenty power to stop you, but you just want to make sure that it does have disc brakes. And if you can, and you see Jaguar cables, then that's a winner. It's in the little details, peeps. It's in the little details. Next up, brake sensors. Now, both of these bikes have brake sensors, and what do I mean by that? Now, you have a twist and go, okay? So you can twist to accelerate. So what happens if you twist and you pull the brake? Now, what should happen is the bike should know that you're braking, so it should cut off the motor, which on these bikes is at the rear wheel, which both of these do. Now, it's something you really want to look out for because you don't want to be accelerating and braking. Like, you wouldn't do that in a car, would you? You can't, different pedals, etc. So just make sure that you have the brake sensors in there, and then that way when you brake, that is it, you truly are braking. The motor isn't going to try and power you through your braking. So that's what you have. Normally you can see them, or it will be specified on the actual site. So just make sure you've got them. It's actually an important one. Torque sensors. Now, torque sensors are in the bottom bracket where the pedals sort of go through the frame, and it's the same on both of these bikes. Now, what a torque sensor does is it knows how much power you're actually putting through the pedals. Now, that's different. You get a torque sensor and you get a cadence sensor, all right? Now, a cadence sensor, all that knows is you are pedaling. So if these bikes have an assist mode, what will happen is it thinks you're pedaling, it doesn't know how hard you're pedaling, and it may just give you all the power. Whereas a torque sensor knows how much you're pedaling, how hard, how much power you're putting down, so it will assist you. So if you're putting loads of power down, what it will do is just give you a little bit of extra power, for example. Whereas if you're only putting a little bit of power down, it might give you more. So you want a torque sensor in the bottom bracket if you can get one. Now, it's not vital, I must admit, but it's a nice to have. When I had the electrified Brompton, I don't have it with me now, but that had a torque sensor and it had a really good assist mode. That was the best assist, and when you got a good assist mode, you can go a lot further because the battery lasts a lot longer. Whereas if you don't have the torque sensor, what's going to happen? The bike will give you more power, you run the battery down quicker. Now, the weight of the bike is also important. Now, these bikes are normally between 15 and 20 kilos. So if I lift that up, I mean, you're not going to want to carry that too far. So what I found, unfortunately, is because these bikes have a battery, it means that it doesn't really matter how heavy it is. Whereas actually what you want is the lightest bike possible to make sure that you can go as far as possible on your charge. If these bikes were 10 kilos, you'd go a lot further, for example. So yeah, with weight, just check it out, especially if you're going to be going on a train or lifting the bike anywhere into your car, that sort of thing, then you don't want something super heavy. Now, I must admit, the best little e-bike that I've had for weight was the Brompton. Now, the Bromptons are light by default, so when they're electrified, they're then still light. So if you want a really, really light bike, then you can get Brompton. There are other bikes that basically the lighter they are, the more expensive they are. That tends to be the general rule, and that's the same with most bikes. So yeah, weight is an important one if you're going to be lifting it a lot. If you're not lifting it a lot, then it doesn't really matter too much. Gearing. Now, by gearing, I mean how many gears the bikes have. Now, you can see this bike is a single speed. We've only got one gear at the front and one gear at the back. Same over here on this little e-bike as well, one gear. Now, what that means is if that gear is not right for you to go, say, 15 miles per hour, the bikes are limited to 15 mile an hour legally. So when you're going 15 mile an hour, you want this gearing to take you slightly above that. You don't want to be spinning your legs really quick at 15 mile an hour on this gearing. So you want quite a strong gear, quite a high gear. Now, that's hard to tell. I'm not entirely sure what this gearing is on this one, but this is quite good. I'll pop that up on screen now, because basically when the battery gets to 15 mile an hour, you can still pedal. So you can still put down power. Your legs aren't spinning, aren't going like the clappers. So gearing's important. A lot of them have rear derailleurs as well, so you can change the gear at the back. Now with that, sometimes what happens is, with the derailleur low, as I've seen my dad's bike, it drops down really low, the derailleur, you know, it comes down to like here. So what can happen is you can bottom out and hit it quite easy. So if you're getting an e-bike with a rear derailleur for gearing, just make sure that height, that distance, that clearance is all right. Lastly, I want to say it's all in the details on these bikes. Now, you've got little screens, the buttons, the way it feels, the locks, how strong everything is. And that's hard to tell when you're buying one from China. You don't know, you know, how strong the closes are, how long it's going to last, the bottom bracket, the pedals, that sort of thing. Now you can kind of tell when you look around them what's stronger, what's weaker, what's plastic, what's metal. So just check that out. You know, mud guards, how are they? Do they feel strong? And it is a hard one to tell. I think with that, what you can do is go for a more reputable Chinese brand. So there you go, fine people. They are my top tips on these Chinese electric bikes, these little folding e-bikes. I hope you found it useful. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and hopefully I can bring more videos with more gear. The more the channel grows for you guys and girls. Any comments, do leave them down below, and I'll do my best to get to them. So until the next one, fine people, take care of yourselves, safe riding. See you soon.